webinar from Data to Decisions. My name is Sten Soomlais. I work as a Chief Product Officer at GoModule, and today I will be your host for the next 45 minutes. First, some household rules. We will have a Q&A session for in the end for 10 minutes. So please put your questions into the chat box on the right. Also important to note is that the webinar will be recorded. And now it's time to introduce our presenters. First, we have Hansi, who's an industry expert and is sharing his outside view. Hello, Hansi.
Hello, everybody. Happy to be here.
Yep. Thanks for joining. And then we have two gentlemen for companies which have built their own digital ecosystem over the last few years. We have Stefan from Riese&Müller. Hey, Stefan.
Hi. Hi. Thanks for the invite.
And we have Julian from Veloretti. Hi, Julian.
Hello, good to be here.
For those who do not know what GoModule does, then we provide IoT for e-bikes and other micromobility vehicles. And we are lucky enough to work with both Veloretti and Riese&Müller. So let's hit it off then. Just to set the scene first, I have a couple of questions to Stefan and Julian. Stefan, maybe you start by explaining what was the reason Riese&Müller started collecting data. I guess it was not the end goal to get as much data as possible. So maybe you explain the background a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Back in 2018, there was the idea that our Nivo, our more or less one of the most famous or most popular bikes we have, to offer it combined with an insurance and a recovery service. The general idea was we wanted to check if a customer decides for a premium e-bike, wouldn't it be a good idea to offer, let's say, kind of peace of mind service to say, hey, you go with a premium bike, we offer you an insurance, including a recovery team which takes care of your bike if it got stolen. This idea was quite successful. So nowadays we are connected European-wide insurances in 10 markets. So let's say a lot of or thousands of connected bikes, which leads to the fact that we collected in our own cloud. So Riese&Müller hosts in the complete own cloud a lot of raw data, which is nowadays, let's say, pure gold. But yes, as you said, it was not the main reason to collect data. It was more or less the nice side effect of the initial use case, selling a premium bike, including insurance and recovery service.
Thanks. Julian, what's the case with Veloretti? Sorry, you are mute.
What's the same for us as for Riese&Müller that we also didn't focus on. We wanted to have data. It's more like I think we started in 2012 with city bikes, and we had never had e-bikes until 21. And then we started going to that market. We tried to position ourselves in the urban design market with our main competitors like Combo or Cowboy. Yeah, and basically, if you try to be in that market and have that appearance, then you have to be connected, and then data comes with it, of course. And but gathering the data is definitely not the goal back then. That was the first step. Yeah.
Thanks. I think, Stefan, maybe you can briefly explain what kind of different data sources do you have?
In first place, the obvious part is the bike, which is collecting data, especially when customers are riding. That's let's say the answers the how are the bikes are used. But when you want to book a service, we have also an internal shop system We have our own digital world, so we are able to combine, let's say, booking behavior when are people in our ecosystem combined with when are people riding. And yeah, of course, for me, especially in the product management, the more interesting part is, of course, the riding behavior. So let's say the GPS tracker itself in the bike.
Thanks. And Julian, what about you?
Yeah, first of all, we also have like the bike data. Very similar setup, of course, with the Commutals backend and our own backend that we can monitor like the usage of the features and the bike. But also because we are a D2C brand, we know a lot more about the customers than original bike brands, traditional bike brands. As we know when they buy it, or what bike they exactly buy, where they're located, but also when they need a bike repaired, we also do the service. So we also know, okay, bikes comes in, on which bikes they replace what part. So in the basis we have a lot of data, but the trick is okay, how we going to combine that is, I think, the most difficult part, and also where the opportunities lay for the future.
Yeah, I think we will discuss that in more detail within the next questions. I think it's time to ask our audience as well. Basically, we have generated a poll, and maybe each person takes like 20-30 seconds to answer the question about what's the data situation in their company.
Can I ask Stephen and Julian, for how long have you been putting up or getting the data? How many years so far, more or less?
For us, it's 5 years.
5 years.
So
very similar time, I guess.
yeah, I mean, we started 2018, but the volume, I mean, increased then 2019. And one nice number is I heard that we collected roughly 100 million ridden kilometers. So it's really a lot that came together.
It's a lot, yes, it's a lot.
And that only connected bikes, right? That is only the data from connected bikes. When you consider that still a bigger part is not connected, then you can imagine what you as a company and what your customers are riding out there. So
I think it's time to turn to the next question or section. It's trying to figure out how to turn data into actual value. And I think this is where Juanzi steps in. Juanzi, how do you see which areas of the business benefit most right now from the data, but also which ones have a lot of potential?
Yeah, but there are obviously different layers. I mean, one of the first layers that come to anyone's thoughts when speaking about this specific topic, it's delivering the best product possible to the end consumer, right? That's one of the first things that come to our minds. However, the data, it can be used in so many different aspects of the whole bike world, from production to sales, obviously, to and the ultimate goal should be reaching and being successful in delivering the right product to the end consumer. But it's so the potential is so big that I'm afraid that it's overwhelming for most of us. I think that what Julian and Stephen just mentioned, somehow that's why I asked them when they started picking up, putting together this data. The volume is so big that I'm afraid that very few companies out there are able to make an efficient use of it. But our main goal, ultimate goal, should be having happy customers. That should be our goal. But in order to get there, data should be used in many other previous processes: production, assembly, efficiency in sales. Those places where it could be used in order to make a better work are there's a lot of places where it could be used. But I've been thinking about it, and I'm under the impression that it's not the case. We are far from that, actually. Really far from that.
Thanks. Yeah, I think maybe Stefan, you can comment on that one. That basically, as I see it right now, the data you collect is mostly used to improve your own product offering directly. This end user directed digital part. As I understand, that's kind of where you actually use the data right now the most.
I mean, it's still a consumer or end consumer focused product. Also, the insurance. I mean, the data is, like I said, the nice side effect. That I think what Juanzi said is right, because we have the data, and I would still not say we use it in the way we could use it, because the main question is, I mean, you have to generate the data, and then you look at the data. Okay, and what should we do with it? When the average ridden tour is 5 or 6 kilometers, then and I see how the bike looks like, also our bikes, then it's always, the truth is, so the data says how the bike is used, but what the development team does, or also what product management and so on does, is it's pretty hard to follow the data, because when you would only develop what the data is saying, then bikes would look completely different. That's not the full truth. So we have a lot of data, and it's still super hard to find the right answer, what data can really help now. It's we haven't learned how to handle data, even if you take the average or if you take the median. So sometimes you have the same data pool, but you get different results when you misinterpret the data, or only the capacity you need to evaluate the data, server infrastructure, or people who can read it, or now AI. So it's super complex, and there is a new potential which is not that easy to use, because everybody has also different opinions about it. So the next interesting chapter, where I think especially development teams, product management, also marketing, can learn a lot from, but the how and where we start is interesting.
Julian, what about you? Do you see? Can you explain us where you see the value in the current system from the data, and maybe also future potential?
Yeah, you have to can look at it two ways. I think is one way is to learn what the customer is doing, but I totally agree with Stefan that that's not totally what is actually what they want when they buy a bike. But it's really interesting to see that, and to help to understand what the logic is if you combine it with your experience with talking with customers. I think the battery of the kilometers and battery capacity is a really good example of that. And the next step is, I think, if I look at the future for us, as we are still really at the starting point, and I'm a product manager, so I'm really focused on the customer value things, and I think we can make the biggest impact by combining all that data to create added experience of added value for the customer. And I think one of the things you can really do, if you look at the uses of the bike, but also the service, the manufacturing data, to get a history of the bike and learn more about how the bike is being used and what are the problems while using it. Because 10 years ago we were bicycle companies, we sold the bike and we never saw them anymore. But now we have the opportunity to keep that, keep learning about our bikes and how they're being used, and how we can help the customers to have a longer usage of the bike, or keep the value of the bike longer, get a bike passport as example, if we combine all that data together. And I think that's something that we can make a big difference. But yeah, you need a lot of time, effort, and resources to do that, and that's quite difficult. In the end, you will always get the question: are we going to sell more bikes because of this? And that is interesting discussions.
Yeah.
I think for Veloretti, which is mostly a direct-to-consumer brand, still kind of having a direct relationship to the customer is important, correct?
Yeah, that's
So-
really important, and I think we are really in luck that we are really close to our customers. So we also have a lot of data. Or we have the data, and we can do a lot with it. And for other brands, if you connected bikes, you're getting closer to the customer. All our bikes are connected from the start, so we know the data of all our bikes, and all our customers that ever sold bought a bike of us is also via our own channels, and also the service. So we have everything in place, but now the next steps, that's a lot more work than only having the data points.
Yeah, that's true. But Stefan, what about let's say brands who sell via retailers? Do you see that getting closer to the rider is important for them as well? I think Riese&Müller is kind of a good example. Or why do you see that it's important?
I mean, for every brand, it's super important that you know who your customer or who your target group is, especially when I think we have roughly 16 or 17 models, completely different target groups, from cargo bike to trekking to more or less off-road bikes. So of course, it's super important that we know our customers, and we know at least these customers who register to our digital world, not only book a service, but just only register. So it's super important for us. Yes, for us, it's a bit different. We have a very good dealer network, and they are, let's say, more or less in the first place responsible for, or the first touch point for the customers. But we as a brand have a very, very close, let's say, relationship to our customers. We see this all, for example, in newsletter response. So we have a crazy high response on newsletters. So we see that the relationship between brand and customer, even when you have a dealer in between, is super important. Definitely. And to be honest, it's not only the relationship is not only there when you have a connected bike. It's, I think, for every brand, super important to know who your customer is and to develop the right products.
And have you also had any kind of backfiring from the dealer side or retail side because you are kind of more directly connected to the user, and maybe the dealer is afraid to lose the control?
No, because the relationship, like I said, the first touch point is the dealer. He or she sold the bike, so customers go directly to our dealers, and I think we are really lucky to have really good dealers. So we don't let's say, disrupt this relationship. But I mean, we are talking about data. What we don't do, and I mean, it's standing on every roadmap, is the question: how can we help also dealers with the data? I mean, we have always this scenario: is it in future possible that a rider comes and says, "Here, this is my riding data from the last 4 years. What would you recommend based on that data? What is the next perfect bike for me?" Then this data could help. But at the moment, we collect the data, and the dealer doesn't benefit from it, but has also no disadvantages, to be honest.
I think one of the advantage potentially is also that the users have a more direct access to the dealer network, because in your application there is a dealer network map, and they can kind of contact the dealer, so it's easier.
Yeah. I mean, we have our own app, so the touch point is then a Riese&Müller interface where you find all the information for your dealer. But also, when you want to contact our customer care team, you can do it directly through the app. So yeah, so there is an app with at the touch point, and you can decide if you go through our customer care team or through the dealer. And in our case, it's mostly the dealer.
Julian, how have you solved the customer care system?
Currently, is something what Stefan is explaining. It would be really nice to have that in our app as well. But currently, is we have just a call center, like an internal call center. So we have a customer care service, and of course also our retailers since a few years. But basically, our customers are calling us a lot, and we are when they need service, we say, okay, please go to the retailer. But if we could include that also in really nice in the future if we could include it in the whole app experience as well.
Thanks. I think we can move forward to our next session. And now it's Hans's turn again. So basically, we already discussed that there is data, but there seems to be a big disconnect of having the data and actually using it to change any business behavior. So this is something that you agree, Hansi, correct? And maybe you can also explain from your side what could be the main reason there.
Absolutely. There's a big gap between the data and the real and actual use of the data. I have many examples, and I think that Stefan came up with some interesting data, right? Stefan, you mentioned that the average ride of your customers, those which are connected, it moves around 5 kilometers per day, right?
Something like this, yeah.
More or less. So I've been wondering for a long time why the hell are we coming up with bigger batteries and bigger engines in e-bikes when coming up with an e-bike with a appropriate size battery would be more than enough for those who use bikes for commuting, basically for urban commuting. That would enable more people to buy bikes because obviously the retail price would be lower and they will be more accessible. That's one of the things that I've been thinking for a very, very long time. And instead, the only thing that we do is coming up with bigger batteries and bigger batteries. Right now, if a battery in an e-bike is smaller than 600 watts, it looks outdated and old. And it's not the case, because if you're going to ride an average of 5 kilometers per day, even though if you do something exceptional, 350 or 400 watt battery would be more than enough. That's one of those things that I've always been wondering about. The other thing is that data for manufacturing, for example, it's absolutely ignored. I know many cases brands that own they have their own assembly facility, super automated. Everything is kind of measured, assembly times are under control and registered. So they've been working with 2, 3, even 4 years historic about how long bikes are take to be as fully assembled, which are the bikes that go in and go out. I mean, what's the turnover, how the assembly facility works. And even though they have this kind of very fundamental and important data, they don't work with it in order to be ready for when the demand peaks come, right? They prefer to rely on the old school year programs from the dealers instead of having a more modern, I was going to say sophisticated, but it's not even sophisticated. It's just contemporary. It's not even modern either. It's contemporary. So they prefer to rely on how things were done 10 years ago instead of choosing being more efficient, more flexible, faster, modern at the end of the day, right? And they do so because they don't want to change how things are done. They're in their comfort zone. They think that it's going to last forever. Even though, I mean, if you take a look of, for example, how the automobile industry, I know it's different size, different volumes. I know, please don't yell at me, but I know it's very different. But ideally, these assembly production facilities should work as a just-in-time production style. But instead, no, they produce in batches, in big volumes per models, and they're not fighting, or they're not working to become more efficient using the data that they already have. They don't depend on anyone else. So those are quite good examples of how the data is wasted. It's out there, it's wasted, and no one really uses it, because in my opinion, they're kind of afraid of stepping out from the comfort zone.
Thanks, Wanzi. Stefan, maybe you start fighting back a little bit. Why do you see that there is a disconnect? We briefly discussed it already, but maybe in a couple, where the problem lies.
I think it's pretty hard to say, okay, we have here now data, we see the riding behavior, and now we develop a product specifically for that data. Because when you ask then people, is that a bike you like? Then I don't know if they really understand the product. I think that's maybe the bike industry has also a kind of education task. I don't know how to call it, but when you compare it to the car industry, you still can buy cars with 800 horsepower and ride it through the urban cities. We can also say, is it necessary or not? No, but there's a target group, and I think we have the same. When you see what is happening now in the bike industry, every drive unit gets more Newton meters, and the batteries get bigger. What Juanzi said. If I compare this to our riding data, I would say this is the direction couldn't be more wrong than this development. But does the customer understand it? And I think that's, you have to be really, yes, step out your usual development process and also thinking, because I think data is super helpful, especially when you take a design thinking process in the beginning. I think data can lead to really good questions. You can generate really good questions out of data and try to find out based on this riding behavior, which is no, I assume that, or I think I rode, or when a dealer says, I think people, and I hear, and I assume. No, data is really honest, no emotional interpretation. So then you can ask specific question. I think this should be the next step, and this is what we try to learn before we develop. We check the data and try to generate really questions which help us to develop the next product. And if this fits then to the data is the next question. But it's super hard to step out of your comfort zone, because it's always quite easy. New drive units, no batteries, just put it in your bike and the next model is ready. You have to change that, and for that you need really a lot of people in your company who stand behind this.
Thanks. Julian, your turn to explain what are your main blockers, maybe, to move forward with the data.
Yeah, for us as a small company, it's quite difficult to have to find the time and to focus on this. It's of course important, but in the end of the day, take me as an example. I'm product manager of the e-bikes and the city bikes, and I also have to do the whole app with it. The other companies have like dedicated people for this. It needs a lot of effort, and you need to do it really correct, because sometimes data gives more questions than answers. So if you step into the research to figure out the data, you need to say you need to be full on board and really do a deep dive. And I see the data as like breadcrumbs, I always say, because that's the starting point, and you're gonna see some stuff. Again, a really good example about battery usage. Okay, I see a strange behavior to the customer that what I didn't expect. And that's the first step. And then you need to figure out, okay, but what does it mean? Is that a good decision then to really build bikes with smaller batteries? Or is there another problem that have people more range anxiety? Is that a problem? And can we solve it in another way that people can buy smaller batteries? So it's really a starting point. And to go through that whole loop, it takes a lot of effort. And basically for small companies like us, it's quite difficult to find the time.
Thanks. I think we come to the last section of this webinar. So let's try to share some practical tips. Let's see how many we'll find. Hans is starting from you in a couple of sentences. How do you see that the bike industry can become data-driven? What needs to happen? A few steps.
Well, first we need structure and resources, because as far as I know, the data is out there. Everyone is generating data, but no one is really paying attention to it. Otherwise, we would have seen it in the products that we bring to the market. I mean, the homogeneity. Okay, I will try to find another word. Most of the products that came up to the market in the last 10 years have been more or less the same. There's not been any change at all, although the data has been available for everyone. So let's be honest, let's be realistic, and let's be clear. We pay attention to the data, but in a very light way. I mean, and we're not giving to the data the importance that it really has, because otherwise we would have been bringing products that make sense to all of the end consumers out there, and not those who are already riding bikes. And that would have meant growth for everyone, right? But instead, we've been refining product, and not coming up with what end consumers really need for the daily use.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. And maybe Stefan, I will ask from you, if a brand is sitting on a set of data, but somehow doesn't know at all what to do with it, what are the first practical steps?
Start with the low-hanging fruits. What I did was a sales presentation, and I started with some questions, because I asked the sales guys, what do you think, how many kilometers is the average of model XYZ, or what do you think, how often the app is used when a customer booked a service, or what do you think, how many kilometers were ridden last year from our connected bikes? And that was super funny, because that was a playful way to emphasize also the colleagues what data can do, and why it is super necessary or interesting also for the development team to have connected bikes, even when the user-centric function is insurance and recovery. And that was the fun part. So looking at data is also fun. And because you get really nice insights where you have to laugh, or where you directly ask your colleagues, would you have thought that model XYZ is riding 8 times per day because it's the kid transporter, and it rides in the morning to the kindergarten and to the school, and picks it up, and in the evening maybe to the spot. So you see super interesting curves, compared the cargo bike, the load, compared to a city bike, which rides in the morning and in the evening to work and back. So my recommendation would be start with a playful way, and not directly to what is the data and how can we improve development. Just try to understand how the bike is used, and then the next step is then really, okay, when this is the data and this is the product, where can we improve a product, for example, different tires, different whatever. That's then really the next step. But my recommendation would be to start with the low-hanging fruits and a bit playful, to see what data can do, and gather some interest also in other departments. Yeah, that would be my advice.
Thanks a lot. The time is running out, so actually I can only ask Julian the last question. Maybe you can mention some of the mistakes you have seen, like your company, or you have made along the route about data management or connectivity, or generally building your digital ecosystem? What would you do differently?
Yeah, I think two things. So first of all, sharing data within your company, especially reporting that is a little bit too raw, that is going to give you a lot of questions within the company, and it's quite difficult when people saw something to get them to explain. Okay, but it looks like the conclusion is really simple and it's like this, but to explain them, but actually, if you look further, it means this. So always really first really take a good look at what is actually saying, and before you spread it through the company. Otherwise, you're losing a lot of time and effort just to get everybody on board again. But also, I think start small, doing everything at the same time, and trying to build a lot of features with a lot of analysis at the same time. You get like lost in the forest. So start really small, look at really practical things that you are struggling with getting answers to, and how can we find simple data that can answer that instead of doing a really big project with looking at all the data at once, and let's see what we all can do. Then you can have so many hurdles that you're gonna run into. So starting small is, I think, really things that I didn't do in the past, that I definitely try to do at the moment.
Thanks a lot. I think the general discussion is now concluded, and let's jump to the questions and see how much time do we have? Can we cover all of them? The first one I see is that generally, when collecting data, you also need to ask for the permission from the end user. So this is correct that you need to do it. And how do the percentages look like? Like, are people willing to give this permission to share the data, or is it one of the blockers also to offer your services? Stefan, maybe you will.
I didn't get the question in detail. What
So basically, specifically in your case, it's location related services, which the data you collect, and you need the end user to permit that or allow that. So
yeah. So let's say when our bikes, our connected bikes, leave the factory, they are completely dead and stupid until a customer books a service and really gives the permission. You can even book a service and give the permission that you don't want to be tracked. I mean, then we can't offer the recovery service. But yes, we have we follow the highest DPA rules here in Europe and especially Germany. So no bike sends any data when the customer didn't give the permission, and there is also no backdoor at all. So you can make also an account and just use the app without using the connectivity module, but benefit from the app. So yeah, we follow the GPA rules, and there is no data sent to us when the customer didn't give the permission.
Mm-hmm. And Julian, on your side, it's opt-in or the digital experience as well.
Yeah, I think as I explained in the beginning is that we could potentially look at a lot of data, but as we still are in the starting phase of making using that and making the right decision out of that, we try to start with all the data that the people, the users is using. It's from the user. So if we don't do an analysis of it, we don't gonna request access of it. So we actually don't have it if we not gonna use it. So if we adding if you want to know more, we have to send out a request to the customers to gather more and more. And if you want to use like the basic stuff, the basic stuff of the usage of the app and etc. It's all anonymized, so you have no clue which person is what, and only a few people inside of the company have access to that. Yeah.
Thanks. Actually, I think the second part of the question was that, and another one I saw was that, can you share approximate this activity, activation rate? That's interesting, definitely for people. Like, you need to activate the service or buy it. Whereas, how many people out of 100 would, how do you see it, would do it? Like, what's the ratio? Stefan?
Yeah.
I think that are quite internal numbers which I wouldn't provide here, but what I can say is, and what also some studies show, that their interest is growing. In the beginning, it was really a topic you had to explain, and I always compare it to a car. When you buy today a car and it has no CarPlay, and you can't listen to your music in the car, then you are pretty confused. And we see that the same happens to the digital world. So when you buy a bike, then you want to hear what is there an app available, or are there other services? Let's say that the demand is growing, but I can't tell specific numbers.
Yeah, I think it's basically the same to you, Julian, correct?
Yeah, it's the same thing, but I can say that our service is as one package. So we have our data package, and our insurance is the same. And I think if you, it's quite high. I can't go into details further, but if you make it really simple and have one package instead of split it up completely, then it's also for customer easier to add that package and make use of it.
Thanks. There are a couple of questions which are more like technical, so I think I can answer those. So what kind of components are monitored? It actually depends on the bike, drive unit, and the battery type. But in many cases, the battery and the motor and some accessory activities can be monitored. And then what's the sampling rate? 1 Hertz or 1 time per minute. Sampling rate generally is customizable. You can collect data after every 1 second, or you can collect data after every, I don't know, minute. And then what is also configurable is how often you send the data to the cloud. It's just a question that Stefan already mentioned, and Julian as well. You get a lot of data, but actually, do you need that data with such a sampling rate? So that's always something that people need to think. Then pedal torque and cadence. Yes, that's something that can be read out generally from the e-bike. But that's interesting also. Is data on bicycle theft recorded from Riese&Müller and Veloretti, and basically, do you use that data somehow?
I have only one example. Sorry, Julie. I have only one example where here in Darmstadt, so we are very, very close now to the police, and IoT Venture supports us in the recovery service, where, let's say, there's a really good connection, and the police is now that far that we once we shared the whole tour. One thief did with a load, and he went on his battery theft tour, and we could recover the whole tour he was riding, including timestamps, and could give the proof that yes, at midnight, 2 a.m., he was in that street, and yes, we have one person who claimed that her battery was stolen, and we could mirror it. And once we had a bike where we had a claim that the customer said, yeah, my bike burned down, and the insurance said, what? And we could prove with a timestamp that the tracker had 85 degrees at one point, and the insurance said, yeah, okay, then it really burned inside the house. So because they couldn't really find the bike. There were, let's say, two nice examples where data could help the customer and also the police.
Julian, what about you? Any?
No, we only have when customers. We don't have a service yet at the moment, and as customers bought the data package, then they have the right to the location. So they do themselves just look in the app where the bike is, and if they don't have the app or there's access, they can request us to look for it. So sometimes you have on the phone, like, oh, your bike is now there, it's moving, or it's at that location. Only, of course, if they can prove it's their bike. With I don't know exactly what information our customer care team needs, but we validate that, of course, and we can help our customers sometimes with that. But we don't log how many bikes are being stolen, etc. As we don't have these features in our ecosystem at the moment.
One interesting question. I don't know if either of you can answer it, but basically the question is about the team size to handle the data and app. Like, what's your? I think the data team isn't that big, but probably the software team in general is bigger. Correct? Stefan, maybe
it's super small. Yeah, it's super small / not existing. To be honest, yeah, because I mean, of course, we have an external app team. We have also internal colleagues who take care of app, and in my team of the hardware and the digital services. But maybe that's also one answer to the questions. Why is there a blocker? That's definitely the capacity of in the end also people who take care of using data. So I would love to have more people in the team, but actually it's not the case. So it's pretty small.
Julian, it's the same with you.
Yeah, it's exactly the same. Especially for me, it's only myself within the company on bike-related topics. Of course, we have multiple data points, and there are other people in the company who are working on that. And we have for the software side a bigger team, of course. But they're more focusing on development than on the usage of data.
Thank you. Sorry, Juanzi, that you couldn't say so much answering to the questions. I couldn't find a question which would fit you very well, but unfortunately the time is up and we need to conclude. Thanks everyone for joining and stepping in. Thanks for all the questions. I think those questions can be shared somewhere in the LinkedIn as well, so we can follow up on them. So thanks again for the interesting discussion, and hope to repeat it soon.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.